Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Kopitiam Council. As we mentioned in the previous one, we will be going back to Sabah because we have recently got updates on a particular ongoing case that we have covered a few times on this podcast. That it would be I think, if any one of you are aware now that any issue that comes from Sabah has to do now with the hottest issue of the day, which is the 40% revenue that is owed to the Sabah state government by the federal government. Now, this has been an ongoing case where the Sabah Law Society has challenged the federal government, saying that to pay back to give back the 40% that it's owed, then being brought to the courts, essentially suing the federal government. And this has been a back and forth kind of situation, saying that whether or not they have the right or locus standi to pursue this case. And recently, we just got an update whereby on the 17th of October, the federal court rejected the federal attorney general's appeal. The federal attorney general appeal, saying that SLS appealed the decision on SLS to pursue, but then now it was rejected. That means that Sabah Law Society now has locus standi to continue pursuing the case itself. So I think a case management session is scheduled for the 30th October of 2024 to determine what will be the next step. So this might seem like for some people just another drama that is happening, but it is, I think, a significant step in the right direction for the ongoing legal battles for Sabah to obtain the 40% that was owed to it, because we all know that this promise hasn't been completely honored. And so what other recourse does Sabah have to gain it? So usually the court seems to be one of the avenues to be taken. Of course, it's not the only avenue, but at least now that there's progress, tangible progress being made on this front. So, Hafiz, when you heard the news, what do you think about it?
I think it's long overdue, isn't it? Like it's been 48 years since it was last reviewed, and here comes Attorney General saying that no review needed. Just keep going until what 50, 60, 100 years. So I think this is a move in the right direction as well. And APCO has expressed their agreement with this decision by the court of appeal to so that SLS can proceed. I think. This is a very small win, Adi. This is like one of the smallest roadblocks, but it is important roadblocks to be overcome with, and we are now waiting on the 30th of October to know what is the next step, right? So this is something very small. It feels like a small win, but also at the same time, we know it's very important, because if we, by we, I mean SLS, lost this case, it's almost game over, right? And you just want to, to review on this, and other people might have to apply again, maybe no prima facie again for this. It goes back and forth. So that's what has been happening for the last 48 years, I guess. So next forward, I think, like I mentioned also in the previous episode of this, state government needs to be more proactive, and giving us a framework on how what they're gonna do as soon as 30th of October, maybe in November or before the New Year. Needs to be a timeline so that we can keep track of, so we can hold them accountable, whoever in this is, whether it's the SLS or the Sabah State Attorney, who have interest in this, must be informed very well, so that all the mistakes in the past by our grandfather, forefathers, will not happen again. And apart from it, Adi, I wish all the best in terms of pursuing this, because like I said, it is a small win, but it's an important win. What do you think is the next step should be, Adi?
Well, obviously, that the legal battle is going to continue, and I think that is up to SLS. We hope that we trust their ability to continue this struggle forward. But like you said, the leaders of the Sabah state government need to step up, because now this is sort of a back and forth game here. is that sometimes we have one foot through, then we have to take one step back, and then one step forward, one step back. So now with the defense sort of being, so to speak, on the federal side, I think this would be a great opportunity for the state government to push for other things as well, for other autonomous rights as well, to build up the momentum. I think Sarawak is looking at us thinking, why aren't you going more gung-ho, being a bit more all out about it? Because politically, this case could potentially can empower Sabah's local government to push for more control of its financing resources. So a key issue is ongoing debates about decentralization. So why not you use this as, while the federal government is recuperating on what to do next, you as state government can also go on the attack. It doesn't have to be so aggressive or very antagonistic as what Sarawak has done, but it's still something that you could use to diffuse the attention of the federal government, is that you take on a multi-pronged approach, that while they're focused on the legal side, there's also the political side as well. And we have to also pay attention that if we can mobilize the civil movements to fight for this, then that would be a multi-pronged, three-pronged approach that the federal government would have no choice but to consider and give special attention to. So that is one thing I think should be moving forward. But I think with this current state government, is just a bit more content to remain on friendlier terms with the federal government. I think that is going to be the mood, setting the mood moving forward, especially with the consideration that next year we will be having a Sabah state election, which is going to be contingent on the support of the federal government as well. This federal government is not going to lay, the federal parties are not going to be taking the next state election in Sabah lying down. There's going to be a lot of influence that they're going to exert, and that influence would be reverberated back towards the sentiments in the federal government. So I think in a way this can be played up to garner more support, saying, okay, well, Sabah has achieved this, achieved that, achieved that. But as a way to have a milestone to say, okay, we've gone through this, progress has been made in the last 2-3 years on this front. That means the state government is committed to pursuing these things. But let's not forget, on May 16th of this year, there was a huge debacle with the U-turning of decisions. And suddenly, the Sabah state government has a representative that went against the Sabah Law Society's decision to pursue this case. So things like that has to be mitigated. Things like that have to be discussed amongst all parties involved, so that there's a cohesive and coherent approach towards this. There's no room for mistakes now, because it will be seen as discontent and disunity within the Sabah side here. So I think it's going to be quiet for now. I think it will be going to be quiet for now, and I think the main episodes will be on after the Sabah state election, or until Sarawak does something else here. Of course, the big meetings of the MA63 Technical Committee has been done already earlier last month. Now there's also the budget. So all the big events where you would hear all these things about MA63 within this year has passed already. So we are going to be coming to next year with a different set of negotiations, different set of things being resolved. Sabah would be, I think the state government would just be friendly, would just say, okay, well, we don't want to cause any trouble, because if we cause any trouble, we fear that you might interfere with our state election. So that is the leash I fear Sabah is currently on. But hey, at least if one is being held, at least on the legal side, there is an avenue to pursue the 40% and Sabah's right. So we have to commend SLS for doing what other parties are unable to do, or should I say cannot do, because the leash is there.
I mean, talking about Sarawak doing something, Sarawak also in a court battle against Petronas with this, and they don't seem to have even bother what the federal think about them. So clearly, Sarawak has has a lot of tricks on their sleeve, maybe, because they also are announcing that starting 2026, tertiary education in Sarawak will be completely free. So that's a slap on not just Sabah's, but also federal government, that Sarawak now can provide free tertiary education. How big of an impact that would be for the next 5-10 years? Because we, it's also being expressed by company like Google or Amazon. They say like, yeah, it's great that Malaysia is a good destination for investment. They have the capabilities and whatnot. But in terms of human resource to fill all these works, high end skills jobs, Malaysia is still lacking in terms of providing engineers who are experts on this new frontier of technology. So Sarawak with this, with I think it was the Swinburne universities or whatnot in Sarawak, hand in hand to provide all this training for young Sarawakians. So I think in 5-10 years we can see, oh, you work in Amazon, Google, oh, you must be Sarawakians. So I think that's the vision what Abang Joe probably see in whatever near future. But also another thing that's worth mentioning here that maybe Sabah can follow suit in terms of just bulldoze their way. I mean, sure, state elections coming near. Hajiji, in fact, instead of attending Sabah government's event, he's in Jakarta right now with Anwar Ibrahim in the Prabowo's event. I don't know why he's there instead of attending Sabah state government event. But aside from that, more robust policy needs to be implemented in terms of you may have I think we're going to have a one episode for Sabah Blue Economy. I think that would be interesting if we can dissect whatever that focus visions that being laid out in that program. If you like us to cover that, please comment down below. We will bring to you all the information analysis about Sabah Blue Economy, because Adi here is, he has all the information that what you need. And what else, Adi, that we can talk about this issue?
Well, I mean, of course, when we talk about this issue, is that okay, legal battle is one thing, but of course there will be more statements being made by other people. There will be people riling up to go behind this whole situation and support it, right? But how I would like to see it being perceived in other states as well, especially in peninsular states, because they see that Sabah in Sarawak is fighting for particular things, and would this set? What I'm questioning is, would this set a precedent for other states to emulate as well when it comes to asking for more responsibilities, autonomy, or assert constitutional rights in financial matters, right? So would we see Johor being more assertive in what they feel is fair to be given by the everyone? We see the same thing in Terengganu, in Kelantan, in Kedah, which have shown to be right now these three opposition states trying to assert itself as well in a different kind of way. Would we see them also becoming more against the idea of a centralized government because it does not align to them politically, right? So, and we kind of see with the direction taking in the current political situation is that it's playing up. Okay, well, the central government doesn't seem to understand the plight and struggles of the peripheral states, right? So we have to go against them, right? That kind of rhetoric being played. It's similar to the whole Sabah for Sabahan, Sarawak for Sarawakians rhetoric, but now becoming more and more acute in these northern peninsular states, which are opposition states right now. Would they emulate our constitutional fight to push their political agenda, right? I would see this as if let's say I was a political strategist, right? I would look towards Sabah and Sarawak and say, hey, look, they've got a good slogan, they got a good idea, they got a good rhetoric and justification for it. Why not we try and find a way to emulate that as well? And there is definitely justification to do so. Kelantan, Terengganu, Kedah, they have an identity very different from, let's say, the center of the peninsula, the South Malaya, and just like how we have our own unique identity as well, they have a very Patani-esque identity as well, which they can leverage on, right? So wouldn't be surprising that they would say that, oh, we're not the same, we're just different, and the federation is diverse as well. And let's not forget that even among the Malay community, there's a lot of diversity as well. There's no Malays in, sorry, Johor is not exactly the same as the Malays in northern peninsula, right? So that is a conversation which I think would come up eventually, being peddled by the political leaders in its current time. And I wouldn't be surprised to see it reap some kind of dividends. It's just another way to say, paint a whole us versus them mentality for regular people. It's because it's very easy to emotionally charge people with this whole us versus them mentality, right? So would in a way, indirectly, Sabah and Sarawak could be setting some kind of example for people who are unhappy with the central government. So that is something that could be interesting to look forward to, or depending on who you are, maybe something horrible to see, and hopefully it won't happen. So depending on where you are in Malaysia, maybe you can relate, maybe you can't.
Talking about maybe you can relate or you cannot. Yesterday, Saturday. If you're watching this on Monday, it was Saturday. The day after the budget announcement, Anwar was in KK to attend a program and given a speech in a program Madani Rakyat. And one of the things that he said, I think it was just copy paste of his budget speech, but there's certain emphasis on Sabahans to be content with like, hey, I already provide enough. I think this is similar speech that in PKR that we review already of Anwar in KK, and also similar tone, I think, in front of a GRS leadership, and then also Fahmi Fazil was there, also some federal ministers were there as well. Some sort of like assurance that we listen to your demand, and now we are giving it to you. But of course, don't ask more from this, because this is all we got for now. So that kind of a message that I got from his speech, we keep repeating all this increment, like you mentioned, right? Like become 600 million, or the allocations is 6.7 billion. Like, but you say, Adi, it's the actual thing, the figure that actually being utilized is the real key here, not just some allocation, how many percentage of how many billions was announced. It's just announcements, but to actually to pass through the bureaucratic process to actually utilize these funds is another thing altogether. So Anwar again try to more of a political speech, I guess, to reassure the alliance in Sabah in terms of, I think he aiming at PKR and GRS, so that hey, you guys on your own. This is a state battle. Next year, whatever you guys do, I'll still be the prime minister. So remember that. Some sort of like, even Hajiji looks very fake laugh towards some of Anwar's jokes. But hey, again, that's what's just my observation from the speech of program Madani Rakyat. So I guess Sabah, like you said, it's a calm before the storm. Then the storm is next year, the elections. What happens between now and election? Something very. I think it's gonna be very silent. They're trying to be ninja, not to give away so much of their tactics and strategies. But I know that Anwar will be, playing the invisible hand as well, like all his predecessor. Yes.
Yeah, when you talked about his whole Madani event, I was just driving past there the day before it happened. It was full of tents being set up, and it was horribly jammed. The traffic, I think anyone staying in the Likas area would have been cursing right now, saying that, oh, every road is blocked because of all these people, and because Prime Minister is here for this crazy event. Yeah, but I think the tone is, shifting responsibility here. Is that, of course, the Prime Minister gave what it is due, and we have to commend him for giving what is supposed to be ours by right. But at the same time, is that absolving? Okay, I've washed my hands clean of this. It's now up to you, people, to set your house in order. I've given you all the building blocks to ensure that things are functioning well. So it's up to you, and if not, then well, it's your leaders. We've given you everything for your leaders to take charge of, and now if anything doesn't sit right, well, that's your leaders' problem. And it's kind of shifting the potential outrage, if there is any, not towards the federal government, but to our leaders, to the Sabah state leaders as well. And I think there is some merit to this argument as well, because we can be given everything under the sun. We can be given all these rights, we can be given all these funding or whatever. But if our leaders are not going to be at their best or the top of their game to make the maximum use of these privileges or these benefits or these rights, then what is the point of giving it, right? Is that it's going to be squandered? Would it be squandered? Because I remember part of that speech as well at the event is that you get all this, but you need to handle corruption as well. You need to stamp out corruption to ensure that things would be moving smoothly. So this is something that the federal government cannot exactly intervene in. It is up to the state government's prerogative to handle corruption within its own backyard. The federal government has to handle the corruption in its own yard, so it cannot handle the ones in the state, right? So it's also saying that get your house in order before you can ask for anything else with us. Because what's the point? We give you all this, but it somehow disappears, right? So it's a fair argument to make. Is that, let's say I give you money, Hafiz, to settle your own affairs, right? Something going on, but instead you go use it to go on a holiday or something like that. Why would I be giving you any more money, right? As was agreed upon. So it's these kinds of situations as well that I think the Prime Minister kind of sees. Of course, previous Prime Minister Najib Razak never saw it that way. He took on a very nurturing role, quote unquote nurturing, with the Sabah state government. He said, okay, you can play nice, and I'll give you a treat for behaving nicely. So maintain that behavior, so to speak. I think these Prime Minister Anwar was a bit more stern and a bit more not as affable compared to previous prime ministers. So this is something that maybe Sabahan leaders just might have to get used to. Or who knows, maybe I could be wrong. Maybe the prime minister really is interfering too much, and that is making it impossible for our leaders to do what they need to do.
Yeah, certainly an exciting time between now and election times. But until then, we are done with the episode that Sabah Law Society passed their first hurdle. And if you are wanting to see more of our podcast in audio, you can go to Spotify and Apple Podcast. Short format, go to TikTok and IG. Last remark, Adi?
I think we will be having something exciting. I hope in towards the end as the year comes to a close. So do stay tuned for that. Again, we apologize that we haven't been making an episode over the past week or two, but be rest assured we do have something in the works. So stay tuned for that.
Yeah, I'm just gonna give a little this because we're gonna have guests, very high profile guests, especially in November. So so stay tuned for that. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. Even like, share, and comment. All those below can help us a lot with our reach within YouTube. You know how YouTube works, right? And just with that, that's the episode. And for this week, if you have any suggestions, guests, or topics that you want us to cover, please comment on below. And with that, goodbye for now.